Jackson in Louisiana, you're on with Jenna and Matt. How are you?
Oh, I love this one.
Hello, Matt. Hello, Jenna. I'm a big fan. I'm actually a theist, and I want your opinion on this.
Okay.
Does being an atheist mean that you hate a lot of things, or does it really, does it really mean that you're just on your own opinion on it?
Being an atheist means you don't believe a God exists. It has nothing to do with what you hate or whether you're on your own with regard to anything. It just means you're not convinced there's a God. That's it.
Well, I get that. It's just that, how,
do you get that though?
Around,
because you let off with something completely different.
Yeah. You started off the conversation by misrepresenting what atheism is. And then when corrected, you tell us you get it. Seems kind of weird.
Well, it's just that I'm just trying to get your understanding because I'm not
on what? Really what's the question?
About my own religion, you see, because there's been
what religion is that?
Christianity.
What a particular brand or type of Christianity, or just general?
Really general.
So, what's your take on the Bible? Is the Bible the inspired word of God that's accurate in its descriptions about God's character?
Really, to be honest with you, I don't really know. It's just written by the observer, I believe. And you know how, in Genesis or something like that, there's the snake that goes around. How do people know about that? There's only two people.
Well, okay. But you just said that you're a Christian, but the entirety of what we know about Christianity comes from the Bible. So if you're not getting it from the Bible, where are you getting it from?
Mostly really other people, I'm just...
Where did they get it?
About the situation.
Where did they get it?
They got it from... I'm not sure.
Me neither, but I think the Bible. I mean, granted, I was a Southern Baptist for most of my life. But anyway, all right, what's the question that you're trying to get to? Because I do want us to be helpful, and I don't want, it's just, you seemed kind of confused about atheism, and now you're saying you're a Christian, but you don't know what to think about the Bible. So I don't know what to think about you.
Yeah. What are you struggling with?
Well, I'm struggling with, how atheists, right, get a bad rap and stuff. Then I'm not really trying to believe that, because a lot of people have their own ideals. A lot of people have their own lives. I'm just trying to figure that out.
So you think that if you were an atheist, that would mean that you were a bad person? And this is not a loaded question. I genuinely want to know what you think.
Yes, exactly what you said.
Okay. I can understand that. I grew up in the same kind of environment where I thought that being an atheist was worse than being a murderer, right? That's the worst thing you can be, right? So can I ask what's making you question that in the first place?
So how most scientists, most people in the world, most famous people, right? Albert Einstein or Nikola Tesla or someone like that. How they don't really believe in God, and they're actually scientists. How their word is law. Most of the time.
Hang on, Jackson. So first of all, that's not entirely true. While the majority of the elite scientists currently don't believe in a personal God, I don't want to misrepresent Einstein or anybody else. Einstein attested to Spinoza's God, which is, I agree, not a personal God. It's a metaphorical God about the order in the universe, and so could have been that way. But the fact that someone is famous or a famous scientist has nothing to do with whether or not they're right about a God. I mean, there are famous scientists that are definitely wrong about a God.
All right. Well, my point is that, how most people in the world, it's just that, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm not trying to say that they're facts.
Well, let's stop with the how and just get to what you're struggling with.
Because first of all, you keep going to how most people in the world. Well, most people in the world believe in a God.
Yeah.
But Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't.
But
I know because I've talked to him about it personally.
But also, just because most people used to believe that the world was flat too. Does that mean that the world is flat? So that's not exactly a good reason. So I'm really curious if you can get to what exactly it is that you're struggling with.
So, well, atheists, like, it's like mostly gay people. I'm not trying to say gay people are bad or anything. I'm just saying that you're gay people.
So once again, you've done this. You know how most people are atheists. That's not true. You know how most atheists are gay. That's not true. I'm having a difficult time believing that you have a sincere issue, because everything you keep saying isn't true.
It sounds like you're not exactly exposed to many atheists, are you?
No, not really.
Okay, may I make a recommendation that you get in some forums and chat rooms and start asking questions. Don't start telling people what to believe or anything. Just start asking atheists what they think. And I think that you may be very surprised by how different each person. It's like the phrase that I think is pretty appropriate is like herding cats. Everybody's independent. Everybody's doing their own thing. You don't know anything about an atheist except that they don't believe, aren't convinced that a God exists. That's all that you know. You don't know whether they're gay. You don't know whether they're American. You don't know anything else about them.
Let's try this, Jackson, because I don't want you to feel like, oh, I called in and I never got to ask my question. Because every time you start, you get off on the wrong foot. So
right.
Jenna and I are going to pause right here. And I want you to ask one question. Try to make it as clear as you want. You can be as blunt as you want. You can use whatever language you want. Why are atheists absolutely pricks or whatever? I don't care. Whatever the question is, just ask the question so that we can try to figure out how to help.
Okay. So what do atheists think of when they're not really believing in God? Like, what do they think of,
What do you think of when you're not thinking about God?
So when I don't really think about God, I think about science, evolution, like history, you know what I mean? But
what gives you the impression that we don't think about those things?
it's not that. It's just that I just don't understand what you do. You know what I mean?
Okay. So the simple thing is, every time that you or somebody else is thinking about a God, I'm not. I'm thinking about science. I'm thinking about sex. I'm thinking about food. I'm thinking about art. I'm thinking about other people. I'm thinking about COVID. I'm thinking about politics. I'm thinking about all the things that are going on in my life. And I'm doing it with the recognition that while I used to be a believer and I used to think, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble, let me reach out to God for help. Now I don't think that at all. Now I'm in trouble. You know what I do when I need help? I reach out to other human beings, and I hope that they reach out to me. Jenna has reached out to me. I have reached out to Jenna. Jenna and I have helped each other on a number of occasions, and not once did either of us go, gosh, I really wish there was a God to not help out, because all those people who are begging for a God to help them, do they get help from a God? Because I've never seen any evidence that any God has ever helped anyone.
Okay. It's just that I've just been under the impression that every atheist was like the Antichrist or something like that. And then
I understand.
I get it. And by the way, I am very much anti-Christ and anti-Christian, but I'm not the Antichrist.
You have I am very glad that you're asking these questions. I'm very glad that you thought to call this show, because I know that as a Catholic, I never would have called this show until the moment that I realized that I actually was an atheist. I thought this would have been a really bad thing to do. So I congratulate you for calling and asking these questions. It sounds like a little bit of exposure to people that think differently from you may be very helpful.
On that note, though, Jackson, I want to move on because we got a bunch of callers to get to today, and I hopefully you'll think about that and then call us back if you have other questions.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Sure.
Thank you, Jackson. And thank you for being honest too.
Yeah, appreciate it.